What do you do when you're in the middle of a meltdown and your child knows your hot buttons? If you are feeling more like this,
Sick of all your attitudes! I'm not gonna take it anymore! Go to your room! I'm over it!
then this, then you're in the right place. You're tired of your buttons being pushed. Stay tuned for some game-changing strategies. So welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Sabrina Reagan, and I'm a child psychologist and a certified play therapist. Today, I want to tackle the topic of what do you do when your child knows your triggers and pushes on them like a hot button. So when your child knows your triggers, it is so important to stay calm and in control. But how do you do this? So first, it's really, really important to recognize your own triggers. Our emotional responses can be so complex. They can come from past traumas, unmet needs, whether they were unmet needs from the past or day-to-day unmet needs, and they can even come from day-to-day experiences. For example, being overwhelmed at work, having too many things going on as a parent, being in a conflict from something else, and then your child has a need and that emotional response is diverted towards them. This one gets me so much. When my house is chaos, when everything's out of place, when I have to step over toys or dirty laundry and nothing is in its home, my sensory system goes crazy and all of a sudden I'm overwhelmed and I am so much more likely to be triggered and snapped by my children's behavior. Knowing where your triggers are coming from, being able to trace it back to its origin allows you to figure out how you can change, how you can grow, and how you can respond differently to it in the future. Number two, recognizing that it's actually not manipulation on your child's part to know your triggers and push on them, but it's more communication and what's going on internally for them. So your child isn't being evil. Your child isn't trying to be mean, and your child is most certainly not trying to be manipulative. Maybe as they get older as a teen and they're thinking, how can I get away with this? But as a child, they actually don't have this developmental capacity. What's happening for them is that they have something going on inside of them, whether it's emotions, thoughts, a need that's unmet, and they don't have the verbal ability to communicate this to you well enough. So it ends up coming out in behavior. Number three, recognizing that arguments and conflicts are normal. So this one is huge. It's not that you're in an argument. It's not that you're triggered. It's not that there's a conflict, but it's how you respond to the conflict and the trigger that's really, really important. And in fact, if you're not having conflict as a family, whether it's between parents, parent-child, children to siblings, what's actually happening is that you're not being real. You're not communicating, or your child's not communicating what their opinions, wants, needs, emotions are. And they're being almost too nice or pushing things down to keep the peace. We all are different personalities. We have different experiences and different opinions and different emotions, and those need to be honored. We need to speak them up. But the problem is, because they're different, they sometimes will cause conflict. And if there's no conflict in the family, I'm actually quite worried about that. We need conflict. But it's how we manage the differences in opinions and the triggers that come up that will change whether it's a good growth opportunity or whether it's destructive and needs repair. This is an opportunity for self-regulation. It might be something silly to say, but if you can remain calm, it is so important to the process. And that's why knowing your triggers is really important, because if you know what triggers you, then you have an opportunity to take a step back, take a breath, and try and manage your calm. Because your child responds not only to the situation, but to your nervous system. And if your nervous system is struggling, you are going to have a different experience different emotions, different muscle tone, different voice tone, and their nervous system responds to that. So it will heighten the intensity of what's going on, heighten the behavior of what's going on, and then cause everybody to go into this downward spiral. So if you can learn to manage that a little bit, it will actually help the process, even if your child is pushing on your triggers intentionally. Additionally, it's actually incredible role modeling. So what's happening is your children recognize that it's okay to have emotions, that it's okay to express them, but then they see how you manage that. So by taking a step back, taking a deep breath, and even though you're frustrated or mad or worried or frustrated or anything negative, they can see that one, it's okay to feel that way. Two, there's ways of managing that. So three, everybody can stay intact through the whole process. They watch what you do, they model what you do. And so it's an incredible growth opportunity for your kids to be able to see you manage this. Triggers are an amazing learning opportunity. So whether you successfully got through the triggers using some of these tips and tricks, or if you lost control, there's so much potential for growth. So when you guys are both out of your lower brain, meaning your thinking brain's back online, you're not in fight or flight mode where you're not reacting, but you're able to respond and think through the process, this is the time where you can sit down with your child and talk about, okay, what happened? What did they need that triggered the interaction? How could they have asked for that differently? And problem solve around this for them, but also do this for you. So sit down and think, okay, this was a trigger for me. Why was it a trigger? Trace it back. How could they have asked differently or interacted differently in the situation? What did I need from them to be able to respond differently? And what do I need from myself to be able to maintain control? All of this is really, really, really good information for you to be able to be more successful in the future. Everything is growth. We are all on a journey of learning, and we never stop learning. So this is such a wonderful and powerful opportunity to grow from. One other thing that you can do, where I tell my adult clients to do a lot in my clinic, is that at the end of the day, if there's things that you feel like you didn't manage well enough, to sit down and journal. So what happened? What was a trigger? What did your child do? What did you say? What did you say that you didn't like? And then write down what you wish you had said. The more times you go through this exercise, the more you're rewiring your neural pathway to be able to respond better in the future. It's an exercise. You're going to the gym. The more you flex that muscle, the more you're growing that muscle, the more you're strengthening that muscle, and then you're more likely to use it in the future. The next one is to set boundaries with empathy. So this is really important. Your children need to know what is appropriate behavior and what is not. In the moment, in the power struggle, that is not the time. When they've triggered you, that is not the time, because you're going to react. And sometimes what we say and do is so much bigger than what the situation calls for. So what you want to do is, when everybody's calm, to sit down and come up with a list of rules. What is acceptable behavior? What is acceptable for responses? And what are consequences for breaking those rules? So that when you're in the situation, if you guys have your thinking brains on, you can remind them of the rule to make sure there's appropriate behavior. If your thinking brain is not on, this is when you need to nurture them to calm, and yourself, nurture yourself to calm. And then when you're calm, go back and say, oh my goodness, that was quite a scrap. In that moment, you did this and you did this and you did this, and that's kind of breaking the rules. And so the consequence we talked about was X. And so to make sure that you follow through on that. So another really important one is to make sure that you repair after conflict. Conflict will happen. Mistakes will happen. We can prepare as best as we can. And sometimes those triggers are just so big, especially when they pile up and we explode. and we cause hurt feelings. But this is not the end of the world. And in fact, it's also a great growth opportunity. And here's why. When you explode and then you go back and repair, your children learn that mistakes happen and that mistakes are okay. But the process of coming and saying sorry and repairing that mistake is the most important part. So when you can go back and repair the relationship, they will learn that when they make mistakes, it's important to go back and repair the relationship. This builds resiliency, and this builds your relationship with each other. This is probably one of the most important points I'm talking about today. So if you remember nothing else from this video, anytime there's hurt parts, make sure that you repair. And if I haven't already said it too many times, practice makes perfect. So we're all on a journey of growth. We're all learning, we're all practicing. And as long as we're recognizing that and we're trying to get better and better and better, as you go through this process, recognizing your triggers, calming yourself, regulating yourself, making sure everybody gets self-care, repairing, you are stepping forward and growing. Practice makes perfect. So make sure that you're doing this. And then again, at the end of the day, journaling, when you did make a mistake, what you could have done differently, what you could have done better, what you wanted to do differently, because that is what's going to help the whole process. If you can follow this process, walk through these strategies, acknowledge your triggers, know that they're there. Know that they're there. We can't get rid of our triggers. We can grow from them, but we'll always be triggered to a certain extent. And if we can just own them, acknowledge them, know that they're there, so much growth that happens. So by staying calm and recognizing what's happening between the surface, beneath the behavior of your child, beneath your own behavior, you will do incredible. But that's only half the battle. If you want to learn how you can help your child regulate themselves, how you can respond to some of these intense emotions, I want you to go ahead and watch the video that's on the screen right now. That's going to help you learn how to respond to your child when they're in the middle of a meltdown so that you can help them grow with this. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more parenting tips, as I will create a video once a week. And if you have questions, pop them in the comments and I will make a video on that. Until next time, I will see you soon.